Hi guys, I'm Steph. Welcome to my kitchen. We've been doing a lot of hearty things and main dishes recently, and I thought today we would work on something for our sweet tooth, okay? So come on and join me over at the stove and we'll get going. Okay friends, today we're making raspberry bars. I know there are lots of variations of this recipe, and this is just my little interpretation of it. Here is my recipe, and I am only making half a batch. The recipe as a whole will make a 9 by 13 inch pan, but today I'm just going to use a quarter sheet pan. It'll be more than enough for me and some to share. So the ingredients are, well, let me tell you what I do first. Okay, the first thing I do is I get some coconut and almonds and pre-toast them in the oven so they're all ready for at the end when I want to top the bars. Here I have a half of an 18-ounce jar of raspberry preserves. Now this is the Aldi brand, and I tasted it and it's really, really good. It was only like $1.89 or maybe around $2 for the jar. It has a very good raspberry flavor to it. Kind of tart and not too sweet. And what I'm doing here is I have melting it down over the heat because I'm going to be straining it through here to get the seeds out. Here are the ingredients for the bar. I have a half a package of yellow cake mix, a half a stick of melted butter, about 2/3 of a cup of oats, and about 1/4 of a cup of reconstituted dried cranberries. I will be melting some white chocolate chips and some semi-sweet chocolate chips, and they will be part of the topping. So the first thing I have to do is combine the oats and the butter along with the cake mix and press about 2/3 of that into the cake pan, okay? So here's the crust, nicely combined with the oatmeal and the butter and the cake mix, and we have some nice big crumbles. I'll be pressing about, well, I'm going to reserve a half a cup of this for a topping. And I have poured the hot jam, or the hot raspberry preserves, into this sieve, and I'll be working to press it through there and get out as many of the seeds as possible. And then I will just have the seedless jam, and that will be ready to put on the bar when it's done baking. Okay, so I'll bring it back. Okay, here is the jam, and then here are the seeds that were pressed out of it. So it makes a pretty good amount. Okay, I have just taken the pan with the bar base out of the oven, and as you can see, it's a nice golden brown. We don't really want to bake it, we just want to set it. And I have poured the strained raspberry jam over top. Now I'm just using an offset spatula, and I'm going to just try to evenly spread it from end to end and from side to side so that everybody gets a nice little hit of raspberry jam when they take a bite, okay? It smells really good. The raspberry jam just has a wonderful aroma to it. Okay. And now the next thing we do, we take the reserved mixture, and we're going to just sprinkle it randomly over top of the raspberry here. There's not very much, but that's okay. It doesn't need a lot. You just want a little piece here and there, because we have other toppings that we're going to be putting on. This is so easy to do, if you can even call it hard. I suppose the one tedious little thing would be straining the seeds out of the raspberry jam, and that's no big deal. You just heat it up in a little pot, let it warm up until it nearly liquefies, and then just press it through a fine mesh sieve. Alright, now what I have to do is put this back in the oven, and the oven had been reheated to 350 degrees, and bake it for another 7 to 8 minutes, again just to set the top layer of crumbs. I've taken the raspberry bar out of the oven for the second time now, just allowing the top crumbs to firm up a little bit. Now I'll be putting on my toppings, okay? Just kind of in random pattern. I drained these cranberries and squeezed them with a little paper towel to get most of the moisture out. They've plumped up nicely. They're soft. Did I mention before how good this smells? It's just wonderful. You'll love it. Okay. Now let's take some of the semi-sweet chocolate chips. Kind of sprinkle them over. Not too much. For half the recipe, maybe about 1/3 of a cup. Let's see. Let's put a little bit of the toasted coconut on, okay? Again, just a little bit so that everybody gets a bite of some of these crunchy things and some of the tartness of the raspberry jam. Coconut freezes well, so anything that you don't use you can just throw into a little Ziploc bag and put it in your freezer. So, how's that? And I've got not quite a half a cup of white chocolate chips. You can make these bars just as plain or fancy as you wish. It's up to you. You can use all kinds of toppings for it. You can use different jam. Apricot jam would work beautifully in this too. So, and now a little bit of toasted coconut, although I might reserve most of it for the very last. Just a few little flakes. Now this has to go back into the oven for about 5 minutes. I reduced the heat to 325 degrees because the crust really doesn't need to cook anymore. We just need the heat to melt the chocolate and combine the toppings, okay? Okay guys, here's what it looks like. I just pulled it out of the oven. Now I do want to say something. If you buy a really high quality bar of white chocolate, it will melt. These were like Hershey's white chocolate chips. They're very good and they'll taste delicious when you eat them, but they don't melt as well as like a Lindt chocolate bar does or a Ghirardelli, but it's delicious anyway. So I have to let this cool now for about 15 minutes and then I will cut up a few sections or cut up a few pieces to let you see what it looks like, okay? Well, here you go guys, beautiful decadent raspberry bars that are very easy to make, not too expensive, something to enjoy with your coffee or to share with a friend. And these freeze really well, so if it feels like, you know, even a quarter pan or an 8x8 pan is too much for you, you can just let them really chill and then wrap them up and put them in the freezer. And just next time you feel like eating some, bring it out, let it come to room temperature for a few minutes, and you're ready to go. I did want to say one thing. Whenever you're baking cookies or bars, cookie bars, it's always wiser to underbake a little bit than to overbake. If you bake it too long and the sugar starts to caramelize, sometimes it takes on a bitter taste. So I would suggest underbaking rather than overbaking. But anyway, here are our raspberry bars, just loaded with that wonderful raspberry jam and almonds, coconut, a couple different kinds of chocolate chips, and the slivered almonds and the cranberries. So enjoy. I will put the recipe down below and leave me a comment and let me know what you think, okay? Have a great evening and I will see you soon.